Hi, this is Mike, and welcome back to 5 Minutes of Fantasy Sports. So, yesterday we talked about setting up a fantasy football league. Showed you how to go through the Yahoo website and do that. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about pre draft strategy. So, taking a look at the screen here, this is the league that I created. And it shows you before your draft, it's going to show you exactly what's going on here. So, it tells you how many positions you have available. These are all your starting positions. So this one has one quarterback, two wide receivers, two running backs, one tight end, one wide receiver or tight end position. You can start either one at. One kicker, one defense, six bench spots, and an IR. So what you want to do is you want to figure out kind of before the draft what you want your team to look like. It depends on how many people you have in your league as well. So if you go up to the top and you click on the Players tab, it should show you all the players that are going to be available for your draft. So these statistics are all sortable, which is nice. You can see here the fantasy league points scorer for last season was a quarterback, Josh Allen. And you'll also see Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. These were all the leading scorers. So usually quarterbacks are going to be the highest scorers. That's usually the case in every league. So it's a good idea, instead of sorting this by all offense, you might want to switch it by position. And this is looking at last year's stats. So football, it's not impossible, but it's uncommon for rookies to make a huge impact. There are exceptions to these rules, but usually rookies, they're not going to necessarily land in a starting job for one of these scoring positions that we're talking about. There are rookie quarterbacks that are making a splash now. Sometimes wide receivers, occasionally a running back will get a start. But for the most part, the veterans are the ones that do well. So what you want to look at, and this is one strategy you might want to consider. If you don't have a super big league and you're only starting one quarterback to earn your points, you might want to just wait on a quarterback and save that for later. Take those high-end receivers early. Take one of the top running backs early. Even a mid to high level tight end. That would be a good idea. And you can, if you only say there's going to be 12 people in your league, look at the 12th best quarterback from last year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Joe Burrow was 8. As I scroll, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill. All right, that's a bit of a drop off from Josh Allen. But if you look at 11, 12, it's in the same boat as Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, right? Past performance does not mean future performance, right? It's not necessarily saying that they'll all have the same kind of year as last year. But it is a good kind of feeler to put out there. So you see Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, injuries obviously play a part as well. But you can get a serviceable quarterback for relatively cheap. You can probably get these guys, if you're doing an auction, it'd be $1. If you're doing a late round draft, you can get them in round 12, round 11, whatever. And still, quarterback that'll put up points. But that changes when you go to a position like running back. So if you look at last year's running backs, Jonathan Taylor was far and away the points leader. Austin Eckler second, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris. All right, so you scroll down to the 12th best running back. And so really everyone needs two running backs. So this is the thing. There's 25 people showing up here on this screen. James Robinson was the 24th best running back. So he's going to be, if he was someone's starter last year on some team, he scored 158 points versus 353. So that's a 200-point difference from the number one seed, or the number one running back, to the number 24 running back. And you're also going to want running backs on your bench. So if we keep scrolling to the next screen, now we're looking at the running backs 26 through 50. All right, Tony Pollard, is someone you might want to take a chance on. There's going to be some surprises on this list. There's going to be some people that are not worth it. Christian McCaffrey last year, because of injuries and stuff, was the, what is this? He's in the 40s as far as point scoring for running backs. All right, so this doesn't tell you the whole story. You'll still need to look at it. If you're in a league and no one's drafting Christian McCaffrey, all right, you definitely want to scoop him up. The other part you can look at is percent rostered. Right, this shows you in all the Yahoo leagues how many people are on this guy's roster. So you might want to think about where do you want to focus on in those early rounds? You want to get people that are performing. If you're like pick 1, 2, or 3, I would suggest getting one of those running backs that you know is going to do well and they're going to use often. So going back to the fantasy points, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris. James Conner early is possible as well. Alvin Kamara, there was some legal issues with him. Cordell Patterson was kind of a unique case last year. He was a running back that could start at wide receiver because he started at wide receiver and then they moved him to running back and he eventually got dual eligibility. But that's not very common. So what you want to just consider is, what positions do you think are maybe going to be weighted more heavily than others? Quarterback is usually a place where you can find someone who'll be decent. You can plug someone in maybe week to week if you need to, based on the matchup. Positions like running back and wide receiver, you can start a lot more wide receivers, so you might want to focus on trying to get someone like, Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson, excuse me, early on if you can. So if that's something that you think you'll be able to do, I definitely recommend doing it. So the main thing to do pre-draft is you can come to players and you can go do your research and you can look at the trends kind of that are happening. But really it's up to you and your team. What do you want your team to look like? The nice thing about an auction draft is you can spend the extra money to try to get a player that you really think is going to perform well this season. If you're in a snake draft league where it's just your typical draft, then you better hope the guy's available, but you might want to reach for a player in that second, third, fourth round that you think's poised for a breakout season, or just draft people that are going to be good and then kind of work the waiver wire later on. All right, so that's a little bit of advice. I'll try to maybe talk about some different ways to approach a auction draft next. But yeah, if you are interested in joining this league, I'll put the join code down on the bottom of the podcast. And that's it for today. Thanks everyone, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.